And I've got the joy deep down in my heart. I'm waking up with your love from the start. I'm chasing the rainbow through the rain. I know it's gonna.
What do you do when everything you had dreamed and planned is snatched away in a single moment? That's how you would describe today's guest. But he was soon to learn his plans were not God's plans. Welcome to Coffee, conversations of friends of faith to encourage and equip. I'm Kim Crabill, and I'm delighted to be your host today. My guest was a three-sport star athlete who suffered a life-altering spinal cord injury while on the football field. His journey toward life after tragedy shows what not giving up, no matter the circumstances, can do in our lives. When we come back from a very short break, you're going to meet our guest and my friend, Van Brooks, and hear an incredible story of determination in the midst of complete devastation.
Thank you for joining us for coffee. Some of the messages talked about today come from Kim's books. To go deeper into the messages, we invite you to learn more. Burdens to Blessings is Kim's signature work that is being used to help people. Men, women, and teens all over the world discover the power of their stories. Burdens to Blessings can also be used as a study in your church, community, or in your own home. To assist your group, you can order a set of professionally filmed DVDs with chapter-by-chapter teachings by Kim herself, as well as a leadership manual and teaching tips. Cherished is Kim's 365-day devotional. This book will help you discover God's love for you each day. Infinitely More is Kim's latest book that is based on the promise of Ephesians 3:20. God wants to show you how you can truly live your more. You can order these books at our website, kimcrabill.org. That's kimcrabill.org. Thank you again for joining us. We at Coffee with Kim look forward to hearing from you.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Coffee. Today we have an incredible guest, and I can't wait for you to meet my friend, Van Brooks. Van, welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, we haven't known each other that long. What, about a year?
About a year.
About a year, and all along the way, we've been able to do things together. We've been on the radio, now we're on the TV. I just want everybody to know your incredible story. So let's start with your story. Let's talk about pre-accident.
Okay.
Where did you grow up? What was going on with you?
Yes, so I'm born and raised in West Baltimore. I had a normal childhood. I was the youngest of five. I had four older sisters. And
Four older sisters?
Four older sisters, yes. So you can only imagine how that was growing up. But it was great. And my parents did everything that they could do and sacrificed so much to make sure that we had the best that they can provide.
Mm-hmm. And then you took whatever your abilities were, and you were doing great. It sounds like a three-sport star athlete. What were the other sports? I know about the football.
Yes, football, basketball, and lacrosse.
Of course, it was basketball.
Yep, but lacrosse came later once I got into middle school. But elementary school and Pop Warner, it was always just football and basketball.
No baseball, Van? I love baseball.
You know, my mother always wanted me to get involved because she was a softball player.
Oh, okay.
But wasn't my thing.
It wasn't your thing.
It wasn't my. I got hit with So I did sign up, and I got hit with the ball once, and I quit. And I said I didn't want to play that ever again.
That's kind of the way my boys were with lacrosse. We came from the South, and they went, I don't get it. I don't understand it. Of course, now they love it, but it's just what you don't know, what you don't understand. So take us to the day when you're running down the field. It seems like yesterday to me, because I remember it well. Shortly after we moved from the South into the Baltimore area, and everyone knew your name. That you were in the papers. You were great, and all the records. So take us to the day when you're running down that football field and tragedy strikes.
So I had just scored a touchdown, and then we were back on defense, and I was out of position, and I was running as the play was starting to try to get back into position, and I went in for a tackle, and tackles that I've been making all my life, and this time it was different. I made the tackle, But I was laying on my back, and I knew I had broken something, because at that time I had broken, I think it was 8 bones up until that point. But it was nothing that really worried me, because I always would get up, right? I had a rule that no matter how bad we were feeling, get up and make sure you walk off the field. And it was different though. My body felt like I was levitating, and I had that tingling sensation like when a body part falls asleep. And a teammate of mine came over, and he tried to help me get up, and I could see in his face it was pure panic. And so laying there, it still didn't really hit me that something was bad, because I kept saying, okay, Van, get up. And I knew it was bad though once I saw the trainer standing over top of me. And I knew that I had really did it this time.
Yeah. What happened at that moment? What? And I know that because of raising 2 boys, it's like you never let them take you off the field.
Yep.
You get up and you go, you
Yes.
know. And so you couldn't get up. You couldn't move.
I couldn't move. I couldn't feel anything. And the trainer was doing a bunch of different tests on me, and he was asking me if I could feel certain things, and I just couldn't feel it. And I heard my mother on the field, and that's what really did it, because, and I'm a backtrack, funny story, back when I was playing football early on. First football game, I was playing running back. I was at the bottom of a pile, so it was about 5 to 6 people on top of me. And I could hear my mother yelling, "Get off my son, get off my son." And I was saying to myself, she sounds really close. And when everyone got off me, my mother was on the field. And so in that moment, I said, "Ma, you can never do that again." And so to hear my mother on the field, this time it was like, okay, something's really wrong.
Because you knew she wouldn't be on that field.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So what happened from there, Van? That's when your whole life was changing. You probably
Yes.
didn't even realize it at that point. So where did we go from there? What happened?
So laying there, I overheard one of the paramedics say he broke his neck. And at that age, I always thought, if you break your neck, you die. And I'm laying there saying, well, clearly that's not the case, because I'm alive.
Right.
And then I was medevac to shock trauma, and I passed out once we landed at shock trauma, and I don't remember the surgery, of course. I don't remember how long I was out until I finally woke up. And when I did come to, my parents were talking to the doctors, and I heard the doctors pretty much telling my parents he's going to be like that for the rest of his life and get ready to make plans. And at that time, I was paralyzed from the neck down, unable to do anything. I wasn't even breathing on my own. And so that was devastating to hear.
I mean, I can't imagine, and I remember that part that you did overhear that. There was a conversation that they didn't even know that you were a part of, that you heard that. Well, things didn't get any better for a long time, did they?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. It got worse, a lot worse.
A lot worse
Yes.
than that. Take me to one of the worst moments.
You know, going through, up until that point, and I want to, put it out there, I was 16.
Right, that's
And
right.
so I was 16, and everything that I was working on was around my athletic abilities.
Absolutely.
And my dad used to always tell me, we're sacrificing a lot to send you to this school, and we're not sending you there for athletics. We're sending you there to get an education. And growing up, my dad used to always say to me, well, what happens if you don't make it playing football? And I used to always flex on him and show off and say, nothing's ever going to happen. I'm going to make it to the NFL. And he used to always tell me, Van, never put all your eggs in one basket, because if something happens, what are you going to do?
Right.
And in that moment, I said, I put all my eggs in one basket, and I didn't know what I was going to do for myself.
Right.
And after a while of seeing my parents suffering, and especially my mother, seeing my mother constantly crying and trying to hold it together, I said to myself, it would be a lot easier if I wasn't living. It would be, my parents would cry for a little, but eventually I would be a memory, right? It wouldn't be the constant every single day. My son is in a wheelchair.
So that's all you have time to think about.
Yes.
You can't move.
I can't move.
You can't
Yes.
even breathe on your own.
Right.
And so inside your own mind, you're starting to think this.
Yes.
It would be better if I just were no longer here.
Yes.
Because they would cry for a while, but not this constant that you're seeing. So
Yes.
this began, no one knew. This was inside your own head. So you were starting this very dangerous downward spiral in
Yes.
your own thinking.
Yes.
So where did it take you to?
It took me to the point of giving up. I told myself that I no longer wanted to do it. And I gave up. And I woke up, and when I woke up, my dad was standing next to me, and he knew what I had. He saw it. He knew what it was. And he ripped into me like I've never been ripped into before.
Your dad did?
My dad. And he said, amongst a lot of things, you should never ever do that again. And in his frustration, he left out the room.
He left the room. He just walked out.
He just walked out. Yes.
It's amazing to me that he saw it in you. That shows the relationship that you have with your dad.
Yeah, very close relationship with both my parents.
Right, absolutely. So he leaves the room.
Yes.
And then what happens?
So I didn't find out until a year ago where he went. He went to the bathroom to get himself together. And he said when he went in the bathroom, he went into a stall and closed the door just to sit down. And he said the bathroom was immaculate. It was in excellent condition. But when he closed the door, something was on the back of the door. And it was, a man isn't defeated when he loses, he's defeated when he gives up.
A man isn't defeated when he loses. A man is defeated when he gives up.
Yes. And so he said he got up and he ran back into the room. And when he came back, he said that to me. He said, "Man, this is what's going to happen." He says, "I'm going to do my part. God's going to do his part. And you need to do your part. And your part is not giving up." And then he followed up and said, "A man isn't defeated when he loses. He's defeated when he gives up." And in that moment, that he didn't know it, but he saved my life.
And he saved your life.
He saved my life, yes.
Wow. And what happened? I mean, there's something, I think when he said that, God has a plan. I mean, that had to just bring so much purpose to you, even though your plans were gone. It had, did it open up your mind to what maybe God had planned?
It honestly, it didn't. It was, I had lost my faith because I was always asking, why me? I was the person that was going to change my family's lives. And so why me?
With your sports?
Yes. And so my faith was non-existent. It was more so that I saw it as a challenge for my father. And till this day, my father is the strongest person I know. He's my hero. And I wasn't going to let him down. And so it was, okay, I made my mind up in that moment that I was going to do whatever it was going to take to recover and to live a good life, but more importantly, not to let my father down.
Oh gosh, that is amazing, that love. Okay, so things started to turn around. It still wasn't easy.
Not at
but
all.
what happened? I mean, I look at you now. I remember the news. I remember, us praying over you. You couldn't move from here down. Look at what you're doing. So I want to talk about what's happened physically, and I want to talk about how you have really discovered a grander plan than football because of what you're doing. So let's first talk about your physical self, because when I saw you, it's just like, it's amazing what you've been able to do. But it didn't come easy, did it?
Not at all.
Yeah.
It's been, well, September will be 15 years.
15 years. That's
I'm still in therapy.
Still in therapy.
Non-stop. I'm still doing my physical therapy. And it was that, I believe, that helped me recover. It's like the saying goes, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Right.
And as long as I was being active and as long as I was continuing to try to train not only my legs and my arms, but my mind to make the connection in my spinal cord to my extremities, things will get better, and things started getting better. But as you said, it was not easy at all.
Right. I've seen so many of the films where you were just pressing in and pushing on, and oh my gosh, it's just amazing. How great that must feel to you beat the statistics of what you were supposed to be doing. But that's God's power. You found your faith somewhere in there.
Absolutely, I did.
Yeah.
I did. Oh, my faith came back.
It did.
My faith came back. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So in the midst of that, you found another plan with developing a nonprofit. So tell us about that. You would have totally missed had you stayed in the football.
Yes.
So tell us about that.
So it was 8 years into my injury, and I had graduated from high school. I graduated from college.
And I did mean to mention that even though that you were still struggling physically, you were going on. You finished your college degree, and you didn't miss a beat almost, even though it was hard. You kept pressing on, and it's amazing. So go ahead. I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you. There's so many points I want to bring out. So.
So it was 8 years in, and I was my routine of getting up and going to therapy, and I didn't want to go this day. It was the pressure from other people of why are you still in therapy? Nothing's coming back. I was independent at the time, and so I was able to do things on my own. I was driving, and that just kind of started to wear on me. And I told myself, well, if I get here, which I ended up in the parking lot, and I said I wasn't going back home.
Right.
I said I would go up and tell my therapist I want to try to walk. And if she doesn't let me try to walk, I wasn't going to return. And so I went up, and that's what happened. I told her that, and she said, okay, we can try it. And on that day, she said I took 3 steps on my own at the end. And I didn't believe it. Didn't believe it.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, I'll be back. I went
Right.
back the next day, and she said, great, you took 5. And I still didn't believe it. I said, okay, 3rd time's the charm. When we get back, we're going to work this out, but at some point, don't touch me. And if I actually move my legs on my own, I know it because no one's touching me.
Right.
And I was able to take some steps and, got in the car and cried like a baby.
I'm sitting here thinking you can't just cry, Kim. You're supposed to be holding it together. But wow.
I cried like a baby in the car, and because it was, it went back to if my dad did his part, God was doing his part, and I had to do my part, and that's when my faith was restored in that moment. It was, I know why I was going through what I was going through. I had the answers to my why and what it was, and it just all made sense to me. And literally a couple of days after that day, I woke up from a dream saying start a nonprofit.
Start a nonprofit.
Start a nonprofit. No prior knowledge of a nonprofit at all.
Right.
None.
Yeah.
But I just graduated from college. I was a couple months out, and I was still in research mode and study mode. So I spent the next 6 to 8 months literally in the house on a computer all day, researching how to start a nonprofit, and I was able to figure it out.
Yes, you did.
I was able to figure it out.
And what a nonprofit it is. What's it called?
Safe Alternative Foundation for Education.
And tell us about it, because it is incredible what you're doing in
Thank you.
downtown Baltimore and beyond.
So it is to teach kids the importance of having an education and the importance of having a backup plan for life.
Having a backup plan.
Yes, something
Goes
I
back
didn't
to
have.
your dad. That's right.
Something I didn't have.
That's right.
But laying in the hospital, among the many things that was going through my mind, my father constantly being in my ear, and he was in my ear. I couldn't talk back. So I just had to listen.
Right.
And I spent a lot of time in my head, but I realized that there were 2 things that could never be taken away. One was my education, and one was the things that I was exposed to. And I knew that as long as I had an education, once I was able to start talking again, I would be able to teach someone or tell someone how to do what needed to be done. And so I knew that had to be the mission of my nonprofit is you need an education, and here's why. And you need a backup plan for life, and here's why. And it evolved as I started to build it out to exposing our kids to a lot more opportunities outside of their communities and helping them have the resources and opportunities that they need by assisting them with getting into private schools or assisting them getting into the better schools in Baltimore City. And just being that mentor, that big brother, that dad, that mom, that grandpa, whoever that I needed to be at that time for them.
Absolutely.
Just being that person.
And I've heard the success has been incredible of how many kids, the grades,
Yes.
getting into colleges. Tell me one of your favorite stories.
So one of my favorite stories, I won't mention his name, but he's a kid that lives in my neighborhood. He actually lives 2 blocks away from my center. And his mom is doing everything she can do to help him. And we have a buddy program with Loyola. And we went out to Loyola, and it was his first time there, and he says to me, I want to go to college here. And I said, well, you can't. And he's like, well, why not? You always tell us we can do whatever we want, whatever we put our mind to, we can do it. I said, that's true, but you cannot go to college here. Why not? I said, well, it's not a college, it's a middle and high school. And he looks at me and he says, you know what, I want to go to school here. You went to school here, I want to go to school here. What do I need to do? And to fast forward, he found out what he needed to do, and we made a deal. We said, if you want to go here, you have to bring me straight A's your 8th grade year. And I'll do everything in my power to get you accepted. And he did his part, I did my part. And unfortunately, he didn't go to Loyola. He went to Crystal Ray, which is an excellent school as well, and he's a shining star there.
Right.
But it was that exposure to Loyola and that challenge, and not only the challenge, but being there to support him along his journey. Because I knew it wasn't going to be easy, but as my dad told me, do my part, do his part, and so we made a similar deal. Yep.
Absolutely. You know, there are so many people that are paralyzed in so many ways,
Yes.
Van. What is your message to them? Because I think with these kids, they're paralyzed with, their home environments. They're paralyzed with depression. They're paralyzed with, with the low grades, and they think they can't come out of it. What is your message to people who are paralyzed in what they are, and they think that they've run out of hope. They don't know. I know that you have these 6 steps that
Yes.
we're probably not going to have time to get to today. But what are they? Identify.
Yes.
You want to talk about that for just a minute?
You can run them down, and I'll explain them.
Well, in a couple of minutes, it says identify it.
Yes, so that's of course the number one step. In order for you to overcome any situation, any problem, you must know exactly what it is.
Know what it is.
Yes, so you have to identify what's the challenge.
So it kind of is kind of like what we say in our ministry.
Yes.
Instead of fleeing in fear, stand and confront it before
Yes.
you can conquer it. Right?
Yes.
Understand it.
So that goes deeper into exactly how is this impacting me.
Yes.
If I don't overcome this, what's going to happen? What's the results of not overcoming it? Right. But then also, what's the results of overcoming it?
Right.
So what are the benefits and what pros and cons?
Pros and cons.
Yes.
Really sit down and ponder it. The positive thinking aspect of it.
So I'm a firm believer of positive thinking. I'm a firm believer of having a growth mindset. So if you believe that you can do something, you can trick yourself into doing it. And I want to say trick yourself into doing it. Once you believe it,
Yes.
It's like me when I would tell people I'm going to walk again one day.
Yes.
And people would say, well, that's impossible. I believe that, and
Yes.
I was able to accomplish that.
Absolutely.
Because I put all my efforts into that. So think positive at all times.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then you say, I'm going to go, because of our time,
Yes.
the next is take action.
Yes.
And then number 5 is where I want to land. Believe in yourself and believe
Yes.
in what God can do in your life.
Absolutely.
Talk about believing. How important is believing?
Oh, it's very important, because if you don't believe in yourself, then why should anyone else believe in what you're trying to accomplish? And when you're going through things, it's sometimes going to be a very lonely road, very lonely. And there are times where you're not going to be able to see the next step in front of you, and you're just going to have faith that God is going to be there with you, and He's going to see you through it. And He's not putting anything on you that you can't bear. That how that goes. And it reminds me of footprints in the sand. When things got rough, there were one set of footprints in the sand, and it was because God was carrying you. So as long as you believe in yourself that you'll overcome it, you believe in God that He's going to do His part, and we're going to keep going back to that. God's going to do His part. At the end of the day, you'll come through it.
Van, what an honor it is just to know you. I mean, and I mean that just to know you and to hear your story and to see that your life was hit with such tragedy, but yet you turned that around and you turned that to so much good. Thank you so very much for joining us today on the show.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to take a break and we're going to be right back.
Thank you for joining us for coffee. Some of the messages talked about today come from Kim's books. To go deeper into the messages, we invite you to learn more. Burdens to Blessings is Kim's signature work that is being used to help people. Men, women, and teens all over the world discover the power of their stories. Burdens to Blessings can also be used as a study in your church, community, or in your own home. To assist your group, you can order a set of professionally filmed DVDs with chapter-by-chapter teachings by Kim herself, as well as a leadership manual and teaching tips. Cherished is Kim's 365-day devotional. This book will help you discover God's love for you each day. Infinitely More is Kim's latest book that is based on the promise of Ephesians 3:20. God wants to show you how you can truly live your more. You can order these books at our website, kimcrabill.org. That's kimcrabill.org. Thank you again for joining us. We at Coffee with Kim look forward to hearing from you.
Welcome back to Coffee with Kim. We only have a few minutes, and I want to remind you of something that our guest, Van's dad, said to him that has really been, it just was the catalyst of all the change and all the encouragement in his life. A man is not defeated when he loses. He is defeated when he gives up. You know, many of us are going to hit times in life where we just want to throw up our hands and just give up and walk away. But if we listen to Van's story, we can hear that maybe that is just God's way of bringing us to the end of what we thought our life was supposed to be and crossing us over into the threshold of what He had planned for us. His story, Van's story, reminds me of the scripture in Philippians 3 where it says, but this one thing, Paul says, but this one thing I do, forgetting what was behind, I strain toward what is ahead. Sometimes what is ahead of us is we strain toward it. It's not what we had planned. But I want to leave you today with another quote of Van Brooks that means a lot to me. He gave up his plans and he said, if I can help someone achieve a dream or a goal, I will feel that my God-given mission, the reason for my injury, was achieved. Now that's amazing. And the same is for your life. Wherever you are, God has not made a mistake. It's just leading you to your next mission. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you'll join me next time for another conversation.
Thank you for joining us for coffee. Some of the messages talked about today come from Kim's books. To go deeper into the messages, we invite you to learn more. Burdens to Blessings is Kim's signature work that is being used to help people. Men, women, and teens all over the world discover the power of their stories. Burdens to Blessings can also be used as a study in your church, community, or in your own home. To assist your group, you can order a set of professionally filmed DVDs with chapter-by-chapter teachings by Kim herself, as well as a leadership manual and teaching tips. Cherished is Kim's 365-day devotional. This book will help you discover God's love for you each day. Infinitely More is Kim's latest book that is based on the promise of Ephesians 3:20. God wants to show you how you can truly live your more. You can order these books at our website, kimcrabill.org. That's kimcrabill.org. Thank you again for joining us. We at Coffee with Kim look forward to hearing from you.
'Cause I've got the joy